I'm going to show you something, and I need you to promise not to freak out. Okay, you're not ready yet. That's fine. Let's back up. Before the dark times, technology jumps between console generations meant a whole lot. The Famicom and NES added the ability to save progress, the N64 advertised the third fucking dimension, and the Xbox put Halo on the internet. And now, new consoles are sold with remasters of existing games from the last generation, with minor tech improvements that aren't even considered improvements in many cases. And as assets get newer and shinier, the tricks and technologies used to make the games playable cause consistent problems across the entire industry. It doesn't matter what graphic settings I use on my computer, Call of Duty games from the last 5 years will look like I forgot to wear my glasses no matter what. And if I complain about an Unreal Engine 5 game running poorly, comments will tell me I need to buy a new computer and turn on AI to generate frames between each frame so I can pretend the game runs okay. On the topic of games that don't run very well, let's talk about Escape from Tarkov is universally known to be a technical mess. To blame this solely on fidelity would be dishonest, considering Battlestate games have shown their technical prowess to be questionable.
So people, not everyone, but apparently if you were playing at the time, your account got reset, all your stats stayed, your achievements stayed, however, everything else got wiped. So people were looking in at their account and it was like, make a new character. Then the servers went down while they were trying to fix it all up.
And their leadership to be disorganized when it comes to clarity of creative vision. But at the end of the day, Escape from Tarkov is the most popular extraction shooter of all time, despite common complaints 10 years after its early access paid release, including the audio not functioning. Whether one of the maps is even available to any individual player is dependent on how expensive their supercomputer is and how tolerant they are of PvP via slideshow. But that's not to call the game worthless. As a certified Tarkov hater, I have to say it's got something that Delta Force and DMZ can't compete with. Sauce. In most of its varied maps, Tarkov is capable of combining fear of loss and pacing of engagements in an extremely detailed world that leads to a building and releasing of tension at occasionally perfect intervals. The quiet walk through the woods broken by distant sniper fire, the stomp of multiple sets of boots as you prep your ambush or hide in the grass, the silent panic as you rush through a bunker praying you don't run into anyone so you can keep your quest items. It's got low lows, but it's got high highs, and it's got the special I word, immersion. There's another favorite Eastern European walkie-walkie, shooty-shooty, grabby-grabby game known for its immersion. And that's... Before the Stalker peeps get mad, I'm using Anomaly specifically because it's relevant to this conversation, not because it's the truest Stalker experience. Also, I wrote this before I played IWP or Stalker 2, and I can say that IWP runs significantly better and has more enjoyable progression. Stalker Anomaly is a mod combining the first 3 Stalker games' maps. It also converts them less from an open story-based game and more of a sandbox that allows play for any faction, and more pertinent for today, its gameplay loop involves taking tasks from factions and individuals and completing them while looting in order to acquire better gear, and depending on what mods you run, to buy equipment to upgrade your base. But the original Stalker games are old. These mods all run on a retrofitted fan version of the X-Ray engine, and while modders have done an incredible job making the games look gorgeous, I've often had issues with performance in the more urban environments and stutter from spawns. And while it is replayable, it's also grindy in a more active sense. It's got what Tarkov has in terms of tension and release, but it's even more varied, which is good for immersion and believability. But it also mandates more active focus for longer periods of time and is less predictable in good ways and bad. So what's the balanced experience for someone who wants the hardcore survivally shooter with quests to complete, factions to work against, and in relatively short play sessions, without their computer exploding? Zero Sievert is what happens when you stick Escape from Tarkov and Stalker Anomaly into a blender, and then you lay it on a sheet tray to crystallize. Then you bash into little pieces and put it in a pipe, and then the atmosphere in this game is absolutely perfect, and every little detail serves the overall experience. The quiet crunch of bootsteps in the woods with distant gunfire and ambient animal noises leave a hollow gap that quickly gets filled with wolves growling, a Geiger counter clicking, and eruptions from some of the best sounding guns I've heard in a game. Something this game does that I've only ever seen done in Tarkov and Stalker is constantly demanding target identification. Especially as a newer player, I've had many moments where I turn a corner and shoot a guy before I realize he's a soldier or a bandit wearing green. These moments happen in reality and constantly in films and TV, but games often struggle with finding a way to make it challenging without being frustrating. I think the general color coding is consistent enough to be trusted, with a few select outliers to keep confusion on the table. The combination of a boss having unique armor and that armor being better than average has turned out poorly for me a couple times. Back to the core of the experience though. The quest design is similar to Escape from Tarkov, which at first is a damning indictment, sans one major change. Let's go over an early game Tarkov quest. The Survivalist Path, Thrifty. For this quest, you need to place a lunchbox and a water bottle in 2 bunkers on the woods map. Not too bad. So how do you navigate this map? Oh, I can buy a map from Therapist. Oh, it's not really labeled all that well. Oh, it hasn't been updated in years, so there's massive parts of the map missing. Oh, okay. Also, you need to find 2 bunkers in densely packed forest with no information as to where they are whatsoever. I think it goes without saying that no one playing Escape from Tarkov exclusively uses information from inside the game to learn how to play, because it's genuinely an inhumanly difficult task to do. The game is not meant to be fun. In Zero Sievert, you open the map. The one in the game. The one you get when you press the map button. Yeah, that one. Then you go to the marked search area on that map to find your target. Holy shit, we got revolutionary stuff here. Let's talk about the elephant in the room though. Top-down perspective. Vision is balanced by only showing enemies and anomalies that you're actively looking at, meaning all the basic tactical stuff like checking corners and watching your back still applies, which also means that getting jumped by ghouls and is absolutely a part of the game. Recoil is controlled by your inputs and your attachments, but also by whether you're moving and what rate you're firing at. This means that shooter fundamentals like cover and tap firing matter, and the general low time to kill means that angles have to be managed and the violence is brutal and punishing. The game is also really nice to look at, cute even. But the mix of sound design, the enemy sprites exploding and launching a trail of blood across the floor means that precision shots in this game are as viscerally satisfying as any FPS. The sniping is also balanced in a cool and unique way. Scopes give up peripheral vision and add sway to the reticle, but eliminate bullet travel time and make shots fully accurate. Speaking of scopes, lights, grips, stocks, oh my! Obviously you won't feel the customization like you do in its contemporaries, but you'll feel it, and when you open a little treasure box and find the foregrip for your AK that lets you use the laser you found 3 raids ago, it feels like you found the missing puzzle piece. This is actually another place where the progression sits right between Anomaly and Tarkov. In Tarkov, when you die, you lose what you bring with you, meaning to some degree, everything you find has greater value. But at the same time, everything you bring with you is somewhat disposable, since that's possibly the last time you'll bring it in with you. Hey, get out of this raid, dude. I got all the shit I want. Fuck! On the other hand, default Anomaly has save states, meaning you essentially never lose anything, but that's made up for with fairly slow and grindy progression. Ask players about their Anomaly save games and they'll respond with what day they get access to different equipment. Not like in-game days, like which day of playing the game. Here, most of your progression happens via upgrades to the bunker. New crafts, bigger stash, passive benefits, it's all familiar to a Tarkov player. Except once again, the UI doesn't suck. You can track what items are needed for different things, and in Raid, tracked items will tell you what they can be used for. By default in ZS, you go back to the bunker after a failed raid and keep everything you brought in. You do lose whatever you found, and each raid is randomly generated, so if you drag the special treasure you've been looking for into one of Electro's testicles, you're going to have to find it again. If that sounds a little too warm milk and a forehead kiss for you, there's optional toggles to lose your ammo, your meds, your food, your gear, and even permadeath if you die. And you know how I feel about permadeath.
I don't know how much of this we can use. They've wiped clean most of... Lambert, take a look.
Oh, dang.
Ever use a website and all of a sudden, bam, throttled connection? Too many modifications. With NordVPN, you can change your IP on a whim, stopping sites from tracking you and dastardly internet villains from using public Wi-Fi to poke and prod your internet activity. But Butter, won't this slow my connection? What about my ping? Oh really? Because according to AV Test, NordVPN is the fastest VPN on the market. And I can say as a longtime non-sponsored Nord customer that I have accidentally left my VPN while gaming and not realized it until days later. With one account, you can protect up to 10 devices, meaning you can have your phone, PC, and iPad all on different servers, all in different countries. With a single click, Nord obscures your online activity from others on your network to your own ISP to government censors. And if you want to get your hands on it, I've got a deal for you. Use the link in the description or pinned comment or go to nordvpn.com/butteranvil to get a 2-year subscription plus 4 months on top. And if you don't like it or have any problems, there's 24/7 customer support, and worst case scenario, there's also a 30-day money-back guarantee. Stop getting throttled, secure your connection at nordvpn.com/butteranvil. And thanks to NordVPN for sponsoring this video. Now what were we talking about? Splinter Cell is the game series with a dormant legacy. Splinter Cell was a stealth game franchise in the vein of Metal Gear Solid and Hitman, but with a special focus on managing light and dark. Because of this focus, great attention was applied to how the games rendered shadows, leading to extremely good art design that holds up 2 decades later. In an industry that's been selling graphics cards on the promise of new lighting technology, Splinter Cell seems like a perfect fit. On second thought though, the objectives of ray tracing and Splinter Cell are diametrically opposed in a few ways. Lighting in a Splinter Cell game should be as unambiguous as possible. Whether a guard sees Sam and pops a cap in his ass or continues his walk unbothered often depends solely on whether Sam is a ghost shadow or lit up like a Dutch brothel. The light meter is important to eliminating remaining doubt, but harsh lighting doesn't just make the game moody, it makes it more intuitive. Unfortunately, this whole conversation doesn't mean a lot when there hasn't been a Splinter Cell game in 11 years. And Ubisoft has been all but radio silent for the last 3 years since announcing its remake, and even its movie adaptation just got cancelled. So what's a sneaky, espionage-loving gamer to do? The first thing they should do is fucking buy Intravenous. Intravenous is an answer to a simple question. What if a tactical shooter nerd made a Splinter Cell game where you play as the Punisher while he visits Jacket in Miami? And I'm not just throwing buzzwords at you. First, light meter, sound meter. Welcome back, Chaos Theory. The fundamentals are all here. Different surfaces have different volume levels, light switches and power boxes allow for creation of shadows, and the way guards react is top fucking notch. They react to sounds and visuals and try to get to their source, whoop-de-doo. They also ask nearby guards for support, will radio in that they're checking somewhere, and if they get attacked during the radio call, nearby radio-equipped units will respond. When an area is alerted, that whole area will react like someone's there trying to kill them. They clear rooms one by one as teammates, and they strike a super believable balance between clearing corners and checking angles like a SWAT team, and pausing a bit too long to look around like you'd expect a stealth game guard to. The way these guards move is more believable than any stealth game guard I've ever seen. They also behave in intuitive and manipulable ways. If a guard sees you through a window and doesn't get a shot off, he'll run to the nearest door while calling for backup to attack your position. If you time it right and break the window he saw you in after he's far enough away to not hear it, you can actually use your detection to your own advantage. The game is full of quick decisions like this. It has a much faster pace than Splinter Cell. And after playing a ton on Steam Deck, I get why the creator wants you using a mouse, because the difference between detection and stealth, or life and death, can come down to rapid, accurate shots.
Exercise caution when aggravating my temper.
Another thing these games, especially the sequel, excel at are offering trade-offs. In Intravenous 2, you have access to a primary slot, a secondary slot, and 3 slots for a variety of gadgets from Chaos Theory's pistol EMP, a reusable throwing knife, or empty magazines as throwable distractions. Obviously, every choice in a slot prevents another choice, as well as them all costing money, gained through missions and procured on site via Pylo money, diamonds, and blackmail material. But the choices also happen in gameplay. Kills leave a blood trail, but bullets come in higher quantities than tasers. You can always melee or choke an enemy, but melee makes noise while choking is slower. Using your EMP on a light is easier than shooting it since it doesn't alert anyone, but the light will flicker and eventually turn back on. You could shoot it, but that might alert someone and the light will still flicker occasionally, so you'll need to time your movements. Finding a switch or power box is most ideal, but that means you need to find the switch and get to it. And enemies can turn them back on, and unlike Splinter Cell or Hitman, they don't enter a convenient grabbable position. They'll turn off lights at an angle while standing in the doorways, so you'll need a plan to deal with them. The environment also provides these choices. There's a locked door in front of you. Do you search for the keycard? Then you'll need to find it and deal with anyone guarding it. Do you kick the door down? Well, that's loud and takes 2 attempts, so anyone in the room will be ready for a fight. Do you shoot the lock open? You'll need the right weapon, and that'll be loud too. But you'll be ready for a fight before the guys on the other side of the door are. These choices are constantly happening and constantly providing you with consequences. And at the end of the logic tree of consequences comes one common finishing point: gunfighting. The violence in this game is intense, detailed, and fucking awesome. Heads explode into mangled messes when shot.
Do you know that a decapitation is the complete separation of the head from the body?
Muzzle flash lights up dark hallways, and before enemies know what's going on, they'll usually start with rushing you. As the dust launches forward lit up from your gunfire and your bullets rip apart criminals, the game gets pretty one-to-one with a Punisher comic. They won't just use cover, they'll use their speedy movement to bounce between cover points. This is a genius counter to the player just pre-firing every corner and abusing their camera angle to win every fight. The combat is also damn hard. Even with heavy armor, you'll die in a few shots, and if you're spec'd for stealth, a single bullet can drop you. And if those are the conditions, you're gonna need guns.
Lots of guns. Whoa.
Gun customization in this game is realistic, extremely detailed, and again, forces trade-offs. There's a multi-use launcher, Splinter Cell 1 style, but it replaces your primary. A solid choice for full stealth commitment, but if it goes to shit, it's gonna be rough for you. The game has suppressors, but they're all but useless without subsonic rounds, greatly decreasing damage output. And frankly, they're not all that quiet anyway. If you want to, you can use Steve's VP9, a weapon literally invented for putting down dogs. or the prototyped Mark 23 attachment that stops the slide from automatically cycling in order to lower the noise profile. But when you miss the headshot on a guard, you'll know why you don't get a follow-up shot. Alternatively, there's plenty of semi-auto guns to choose from, but we're looking at shots being audible at 40 meters at that point. Then there's choices like the MP5. They'll hear you. We're more worried about keeping the neighbors out of the fight at this point. There's AKs and shotguns and HKs and vet guns. The gun autism isn't just stat-based though. As guns empty, you can hear the magazine run dry. Even weapon equip sounds are heavily detailed. You can hear the buffer spring and the sound for equipping the AR-15. The combat is fun while being hard enough that it doesn't outshine the stealth. You really can play any way you want and have a good time. Hybrid stealth is mechanically fun, while pure stealth isn't a waste since you get a nice stat screen at the end. And let's just talk vibes for a second. The soundtrack blends the budding tension from Splinter Cell's music with the rowdy action music from Hotline Miami once you go loud. Oh my god, and I didn't even cover social stealth. Buy this game and fucking play it. I'm not asking, do it now. A little fun fact about Zero Sievert and Intravenous. They were both made by solo developers. One of the best stealth games I've played in years, and one of the most polished extraction shooters I've played ever. One-person teams. Imagine what people this talented and directed could do with a team of 6 expanding over the course of 10 years. Project Zomboid is the best zombie survival video game ever produced, and it's not close. The depth of mechanics is unbelievable, and this is in large part due to the isometric camera angle and limited fidelity. Like Intravenous, everything is about trade-offs. Character creation involves choosing from a variety of occupations as well as positive and negative traits to balance out a character that you want to play as. This can push you to value different items as you play and give you a leg up toward pursuing a specific build. I used to work at a car rental place, and I used to play this game on the company computer. Obviously, I couldn't have audio on, so I set all my characters to be deaf so I could make use of my situational disability. Did I mention this game fucking rocks? The knowledge gap is practically unlimited. I have 90 hours in this game, and I've never unlocked the ability to hotwire cars without starting as a burglar. The game is highly detailed, but almost always in ways that are intuitive. When I say that a game has a medical system that has different types of injuries that can apply to each limb, and show you this many medical items, it might give you PTSD from other survival games. Oh god, I have to learn what 30 different items do and try to find all of them so I... No. Bleeding? Use cut up jeans, bandages, ripped up clothes, whatever. Oh, your bandage is dirty? Change it out. I found alcohol. Should I put that on my wound before I bandage it? Yes. The variety of medical items means there's better stuff to grab and use, but the intuitive use means it doesn't make the system unnecessarily complex. My feet keep getting cut when I step on broken glass. Put some shoes on, buddy. I have a car with gas and a car without gas. I need to put gas in. What do I do? Take a gas can and use the siphon button. One of the things Zomboid does best is simply having logical answers to logical questions. Oh look, a car. I wonder where I can get the key for it. It might be in the glove box. It might be on the ground near the car. It might be in the house the car's parked in front of. It might be on a nearby zombie. It might be nowhere at all. And like earlier, important decisions are constantly being made. And because the game features permadeath, every action matters. Hop a fence you can't see the other side of into a horde? Sorry, buddy. Sprinted for a bit too long and now there's too many zombies for you to get away from? Sorry, buddy. Absent-mindedly pressing buttons and you just ate a raw chicken? Salmonella, buddy. You will occasionally get away with crazy things, but it will be all the more exhilarating because you know that one wrong move could result in a bite. And a bite is game over. There's no cure, there's no treatment. It might be quicker, it might be slower, but it's happening. Even more than the previous games I've talked about, Project Zomboid uses its lack of fidelity to increase the amount of detail to a crazy degree. Cars are built out of tons of different parts, all with their own health and spawn locations. Dozens of food items, dozens of clothing items, tons with minor accessories, all with different levels of utility and factors to consider. That jacket's pretty thick, probably pretty hard to bite through. It is going to raise your body temperature and encumbrance though. Of course fresh food is better for you and is more enjoyable, but if you bring the canned food with you, you can trust it for longer. Yeah, that axe is a great weapon, but it's the first one you've seen in a while and you might need it for firewood when the power goes out soon. And this is all before even mentioning multiplayer. Or mods, good god, maybe some other time. I think these 3 games are great examples of where you should be looking for gaming innovation. Yeah, indie games are better than AAA, we know. But I think a lot of people, myself included, tend to devalue games that don't have the visual complexity we've come to expect. I had heard of Zero Sievert for a while, but until its full release and the hype around it from YouTubers I watched, I never really looked into it because the art style just kinda didn't do it for me. And to put it plainly, it's just a mistake. These games are often cheaper than their competition, and in the examples shown today, they can often match or exceed their competition in terms of complexity. And some just deliver experiences you simply cannot find anywhere else. Thanks again to NordVPN for sponsoring this video, and I'd like to thank my patrons and YouTube channel members. The dream's getting realer by the day, and I appreciate your support. Thank you to all who watched, and as always, subscribe to my fucking YouTube channel.